Welcome back to another episode of I Wish They Knew, a show where we share big ideas that deserve more attention in about the time it takes to enjoy a cup of coffee. I'm Joe Hirsch. Today's wish comes from Muriel Wilkins. Muriel is the CEO and founder of Paravis Partners, a leadership advisory firm, the host of the award-winning HBR podcast, Coaching Real Leaders, and the author of two wonderful books, the latest of which is Leadership Unblocked: Break Through the Beliefs That Limit Your Potential. Muriel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joe. I am delighted to be here.
It's great to have you aboard. So what do you wish more people knew?
I wish more people, and leaders more specifically, knew and understood well in their bones that a leader cannot transform an organization beyond their capacity to transform themselves.
And at a certain point, if leaders stop growing and evolving, so does their leadership, and so does the impact they have on their organizations.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. They limit themselves by stunting their own growth and thereby stunting everybody else's as well.
And you argue in this book that it really is not just about the behaviors, it's also the beliefs. It's these beliefs that they bring to their leadership, to their workplaces, that might have been helpful at one point in their leadership careers, but at some point or another become hindrances.
Mm-hmm.
And you outline a bunch of them in the book. Can you give us a sense of some of those beliefs that are holding people back?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is not to say that we shouldn't be paying attention to behaviors, but as in everything, there's always something under the hood, right? There's the engine that's driving the car. So let's not just look at the car, but let's look at the inner working in the engine, which a lot of times are our beliefs. And so there are a few of them that I identified when I got curious about which ones were holding my clients back as they progressed in their careers. And they sound very quiet, but yet can wreak such havoc. And they are things like, I need to be involved, or I don't belong here, or I need it done now. And so again, there are a few of them. That's just to give you a taste of them, but they really end up dictating the way that you behave in a way that may not be aligned with the outcomes that you want to have or need to have at the level at which you're leading today.
But those beliefs are driving behaviors that have sort of hardened over time, and at some point are becoming problems for the leaders.
Yes, yes. And so it's not necessarily that they are bad, right? Like somebody might say, well, why is it a bad thing to want to be involved or to need to be involved? They're not a good or bad. They're just more, are they helping you in the particular situation or circumstance, or again, the leadership outcomes that you want to have? So for example, if I have a leader who says, I want to be engaged and I want to come off as engaging, and yet when they go into every meeting, the unconscious, because a lot of times these are unconscious, subconscious beliefs that's driving their behavior is, I don't belong here. The math doesn't math up, right? You cannot be engaging or engage if what is driving you, if the engine, behind that car or in that car is basically saying you don't even really belong in this room.
Yeah, so the mindset really has to match the moment.
The mindset has to match the moment. And more critically, Joe, the mindset has to match the desired outcome. So the variable that you're putting in, the assumption, it's no different. As we're talking right now, it's the beginning of the year and everybody's starting to actualize the budgets that they put for 2026 or the strategy that they put for 2026. Well, before they came up with those plans and they started actualizing them, they had a bunch of assumptions that went into those models, those financial models, that analysis. Well, the same goes for us. And as we know, if we put in garbage assumptions into a budget at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, we don't meet the results, something's got to give, right? Either the model was off, right? Which is the behavior, the way we executed it, or maybe it was our assumptions that were off, that really weren't aligned with the outcome that we wanted to achieve. And so for us as leaders, you want to think about what are the outcomes that you're looking to achieve, not just for yourself, but for your team, for the organization. And is your mindset, i.e., the assumptions that you carry about yourself, about others, about the context, are they aligned? Are they positioning you to increase the probability of meeting those desired outcomes?
So have you noticed a particular belief that seems to carry the greatest cost?
So, it's interesting because a lot of people say, well, which one is like the one that's the
Right,
worst? And
what's
I'm
the
like, first of all,
worst?
they're not worse, right? But it's very circumstantial. It's very situational, which is why it's not that they're static, they're dynamic. The one that I see, I have a lot of leaders who I work with, right? When they come to coaching, what they're looking to do is really understand what it means to lead at scale. They've had that jump from being a functional leader to now becoming a CEO, or managing a team to now managing multiple teams. So there's this scale aspect to it. And so with that particular one, which is so critical in a leader's ability to progress career wise and to make impact, the one that I see most costly in terms of belief that gets in their way is the belief of I need to be involved. Because what tends to happen is it drives a level of involvement that's associated with their past successes, right? Where they really were deep in the weeds, or past successes in terms of the area that where they had developed a certain comfort level or were experts in. And therefore, it keeps them from being able to engage at the level at which they need to engage in now, whether that's strategically or broader than where they needed to, or quite frankly, just more elevated because what they're trying to do or what they're responsible for is building capacity within the organization rather than being the one that provides all of the capacity. So that is the one that I think, particularly when we want leaders to be able to lead at scale, which is fundamental to leadership progression, is the one that I see as the most costly.
Let's get under the hood
Hmm.
a little bit more, like you mentioned before, because there are drivers of these beliefs. And
Yes.
most leaders probably are aware at a certain point that the belief is not serving them well in this particular context and for this particular outcome. And yet they
Hmm.
still cling to that belief.
Yeah.
What do you think is pushing that? Is it just a reluctance to let go of the familiar, or is there something deeper at work?
Look, I mean, I think it's both. It's both of what you just mentioned, right? There is a resistance to let go of what's worked for us in the past. Even, I mean, this is in all aspects, not just leadership, but in all aspects of life, right? Why do we not let go of, or again, beginning of the year, why do we not, by February, people stop exercising, right? And they go back to sitting on the couch. Why? Because it's their comfort zone. It's what they habitually are used to doing, what brings them back into their perceived homeostasis that causes the least resistance, even though intellectually they know that it isn't necessarily quote unquote good for them from a health perspective, right? So fundamentally, if we see something that has worked for us to meet some of our really basic needs, until we learn a new way of getting those needs met, we tend to go back to the original way. The issue is that that original way, again, may not be serving us now because we learned that way when we were young, and we're no longer younger. We're now these big leaders with huge responsibilities who are supposed to have a level of maturity. And so the three fundamental needs that we tend to try to meet through these beliefs, and we're not alone, everybody does it, is the need to feel like we belong, the need to feel valued or worthy, and the need to feel safe, which in, leadership talk, a lot of times feeling safe is meaning we have control, right? And so if we've learned over the course of time that when I am in the weeds, when I am involved in every little thing, looking at every little detail, or I'm in all the meetings, nothing goes wrong, which means then I'm safe, right? What are we going to do? We're going to keep reverting back to that until we come up with a new definition of, well, what does it actually mean to be successful in this role when it comes to level of engagement, right? And what does it actually mean to be valuable, to feel worthy in this role? It's not being in all those meetings. It's something quite different.
Talk about some of the ways that leaders can get unblocked. Where do they even start?
Yeah, I mean, the first place to start is to even notice it. So, quite frankly, most people don't even think about what they think about. We have these stories because that's what they are, these beliefs, these assumptions that are just running in our heads all the time. And so the first place is noticing that we're even thinking about these things, that we even have these beliefs, uncover them. And when you can uncover that there is something that's off, there's an outcome you're not meeting, there's a way that you want to show up as a leader that's not happening, it's then being curious to say, what is the belief that I'm holding that may be contributing to that behavior or contributing to that outcome and name it. And so, but me offering the 7 hidden blockers, what I'm basically doing is sort of trying to short circuit it and say, if you can't come up with your own, maybe one of these 7s is one of the ones that's getting in your way, but they certainly aren't comprehensive or mutually exclusive. There are probably others that you can explore. So the first is uncover them. Once you uncover them, then you can start unpacking them. Unpacking them is basically saying, well, let me try to understand where this belief comes from so that we can recognize them for when they help us and recognize them for when they hinder us. Why? So that then we can make a choice, right? You're not running on autopilot. That's where you have agency. You're able to say, in this particular situation, is this belief actually helping me or not? And how do I recognize that? And when you have then access in that range of choice, you can then move on to the last piece, which is unblocking it. The unblocking is basically reframing it. If that belief is not helping me, then which one would in this particular situation? Let me reframe it, because a belief, what's beautiful about it is it's malleable. So you don't have to hold on to it forever. You can put it to the side and pick up a different one to help you in that particular situation and then move to action. There's a process versus moving straight to action, which is what most people want to do, and then end up right where they are right now because they haven't changed, again, the engine. They've just fixed everything outside.
Right. They're swapping out this hardware, but really it's a software issue.
Exactly. And look, I always tell people, I'm like, you can keep the belief, but then let's change what the expectation is on the outside, because there needs to be alignment, right? Like, we can stick with that one, not a problem. But these are the results you're going to get. So something's got to change, right? Either change the belief so that it leads to the change in behavior and then you lead to a different outcome, or change the outcome and let's reverse engineer, or keep the outcome you're facing right now and then stick with the belief that you have. I don't have any issue with it. Just be conscious around it and make a choice.
I imagine that for a highly reflective leader, this
Mhm.
process of getting unblocked is a bit easier than for someone who is not nearly as
Mhm.
reflective. What are some ways that every leader can gather the insights that they need to become more aware of those potential hindrances in their leadership and to identify the right belief for the right outcome that they have set?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And look, most of the folks that I work with are extremely outcomes driven. I am one myself, very sort of outwardly looking. And I think they see the connection between what we just talked about, that in order to be able to reach those outward goals, in order to get to those desired outcomes, you're going to be able to get there in a easier way and in a more sustainable way if you're also checking what's driving it. And so that becomes the cause and the case for actually becoming a little bit more introspective. And we don't have to stay there for long, right? I think a lot of folks have the misnomer that I've got to like sit and like spend hours navel gazing. No, 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 no. And this is what I tell my clients all the time. Before you walk into that situation, as you think about your plan, I just want you to think about 3 questions. What am I assuming about myself? What am I assuming about the other or others? And what am I assuming about the context or the situation? And then just check them. Is what I'm assuming aligned with the outcome that I want? If it's not, then again, something needs to change, either the desired outcome or the assumption. And a lot of times they're on the hook for the outcome. Okay. And so, or they've gotten feedback on the outcome that the outcome needs to change. And so then it's like, okay, well, what can we work with? We can work with the assumption.
Yeah. And that's much more malleable, as you said, than the outcome, which is pretty fixed and
A lot of
set.
times it's fixed. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't do anything about that.
That's right. That's right.
I'm wondering if these issues tend to disproportionately surface in later stage professionals, or have you seen
Mhm.
these blockers arise even in early career?
Yeah. I mean, the 7 that I point out in my book are certainly ones that will become more exacerbated or become more costly as you advance in your career, right? As you take on management roles in particular, as you start having to lead through others or lead at scale or lead with a higher level of complexity. Because, Joe, that's what's important here. It's about making sure that the capacity of the way we think, not just from an expert technical standpoint, but how we think about the world, about our capabilities, about others' capabilities, that our mindset has enough range to deal with the complexity of what's in front of us. And so who has more complexity that they have to deal with? It's folks who, as they again have more responsibility and have bigger scope of leadership, the more complex it becomes. That said, I think earlier in your career, it doesn't mean that you won't have beliefs that can't get in the way. They certainly can. And you can certainly use the same process, but they might look a little different than where somebody more senior. In fact, I remember early in my career, I was in consulting and a partner pulled me to the side one day very early on, and he was like, I got to give you some feedback. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, he's going to think I'm the greatest. Right. And he was like, listen, the way that I see it, like your mindset is going to bring you so far as a senior partner. He's like, but right now, the value you bring to the table is being able to crank through these spreadsheets and build these PowerPoint decks. So I need your focus to be on that. Right. And basically, what he was saying is shift your assumption of what it means to add value right now. Because it's not about being in the room all the time. It's not about relationship building with the senior people. Not right now. Not right now. You just got here, right? Your value right now is being able to do this grunt work that I need you to do. And he was absolutely right. Being able to do that is what led to my success later on. So but still a belief. It was an assumption in my mind, not a bad one, but not one that was necessarily helping me in terms of excelling in that particular context.
The book is Leadership Unblocked, and the author, and she's opened up some great insights for us here today, is Muriel Wilkins. Muriel, thanks for sharing your wish with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joe. An honor to be here.